Hey guys, it's Abby from Autumn of Pellinor, and today I'm going to be telling you what I've read in June. So I ended up reading a lot more than I expected this month. I ended up reading 11 books in total. Normally I read like 3, so this turned out pretty well. A lot of them are ebooks, so there's going to be a lot of stuff flashing up on screen, and I'm going to try and go in chronological order, which I don't normally do, and I don't know why. So the first book I read was Pompeii by Alfonso de Francis. This is literally the least exciting book I could start off with because you guys don't care, which is cool, but I like Pompeii and Vesuvius. I want to be a volcanologist. I'm currently just a geoscientist, but yeah, you guys won't want to pick this up, most likely. It's also quite old, but I enjoyed it. It was informative. On to the interesting stuff. Next up, I read Are Prisons Obsolete by Angela Davis. I'm going to forget all of the names for the ebooks, just FYI. But yes, I read this. She is a Black Panther in the US for Black Lives Matter, and this was really interesting. I knew fuck all about the prison system. I knew like the basics, but especially because I'm not American, didn't know everything. So this was really interesting to learn a lot more about how prisons even came to be, and obviously how the police system formed from the slave catching groups. And it was a very, very interesting book, and I didn't really have an opinion on it at the time going into it, but now I think that I am a prison I can't fucking speak. I don't know what that word is. Abolitionist? Hey! I haven't had coffee yet. I went into this knowing that I knew fuck all, and I came out of it thinking that we really need to change a lot of things. Sticking with the theme of racial equality, I then read Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Reni Eddo-Lodge. This is a UK author talking about racism in Britain, so a lot of books on racism and by black authors are set and by and in the US. So it was amazing to be able to see a British point of view because it obviously could actually hit home with certain points that I resonate with more than the US ones. We do have a different culture, so seeing someone actually analyse the UK culture was really important to me. And this book is amazing. I recommend it to anyone no matter where you're from because it does cover the global topics that are, you know, white privilege, white supremacy. It also delves into specifics with different sections for prisons, but also for feminism and for in the workplace. It's a really well-written, well-researched book that is... the way it's written is very easy to get through. It doesn't feel like a textbook or anything like that. It's very much a fast read and will likely have you coming out of it thinking a lot more about your day-to-day life. So 100% recommend this one. Then I reread Queendom of the Seven Lakes by Abi and Endacott. This was for the small press book club that I co-host with my Cheshire Rabbit. I will leave the link down below in the description, and I adore this book. I gave it 5 stars the first time round I read it, and I give it 5 stars now. This is a YA fantasy, which follows an assassin who has been hired by the queen of the country to protect the prince, her son, because she believes he's going to be assassinated. And we just follow them throughout this world as things develop. We did a live show on this. You can watch the live show as well. This is just so amazing. Alice's writing is fantastic. She's one of my favourite authors. I cannot recommend highly enough if you like fantasy books. She's self-published, which is why you might not have heard of her. She's Australian and self-published, so she's not as well known as she should be, but her work is absolutely fantastic. Next up was Devil Darling Spy by Killeen. I was gifted this by the amazing Alex at Alex Black Reads. I'll link her down below as well. And this is the duology, the sequel to Devil Darling Spy. What the fuck is wrong with me? Orphan Monster Spy. So Orphan Monster Spy follows a young Jewish girl who is living in Nazi Germany, and she is found by a British spy and they start plotting together. And I won't go any further. This one, I don't want to say too much because obviously I don't want to spoil the first one, but this one is set in the continent of Africa, which I was not expecting because I didn't read the synopsis. Because I'm a fucking fool! Seriously, I just was like, yep, I want to read it, didn't read the synopsis, and then was like, they're in Africa? It says on the back, 3 brain cells. 3. This is amazing. I really love it. It's very well written. It also talks about race and sexism in a really good way, I think, especially considering it is a white male author. He covers racism and sexism in a way that I thought was really well done. Pinch of salt for the racism, but the feminism I think was done very well. And this was one of my my tarot books, my tarot cards pick my TBR books. I'll leave that in the cards up there. I'm not going to go into details, but I do think that this suited the tarot cards. Then next I read King of the Seven Lakes, also by Abi Endacott. So this is the second book in the Queendom of the Seven Lakes duology. I won't say too much about it because obviously that would spoil a lot of the first book, but it's absolutely amazing. I love this series so much. As of the 1st of July, she's just released it as a duology, as a bind-up, and you can get that from her directly, so I will leave her Instagram link down below so that you can message her and get it directly if you do want to buy it. All of the single books are on Amazon if you want to get them from there. Then I finished King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard. This is the third book in the Red Queen series. It's a YA fantasy that follows a young girl called Mare. There are people with red blood and people with silver blood. The silvers are seen as better than the reds and they control and subjugate them, and they have magical powers. But Mare is revealed to have magical powers even though she has red blood, and the series progresses from there. I obviously, again, won't say too much because this is the third book in the series, but I did really enjoy this. I ended up giving it 4 stars, I think. I'm really enjoying this series. I know it's kind of a... controversial is not the right word because it's fine, but lots of people either love it or hate it. It's very much a Marmite sort of book, and I enjoyed it. And again, I think that the tarot cards match because this is one of my tarot card reads. Next is another book by Abi Endacott. I read a lot from Alice this month, and that is The Ruthless Land. This is set in a different country to the other books, so all of Alice's published books so far are set in the same world. There are 4 different countries, 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th country, and she's written about all of them. This book is set in the 3rd country. 3rd? 4th? 4th! Sorry, Alice. So The Ruthless Land is set in the 4th country, and it links in a little bit to the first 2 books in the duology, which I really enjoyed, and I loved learning more about a different part of this world. Follows a young girl who is sent off to live with some monks, as is traditional for the next descendant of the family. It's a matriarchal system, so it's all the girls, and they're sent off to learn in this mountaintop place, and then she finds out that her family has had all their power taken from them and she has to go find them, and the story follows her through that. A lot of fun. Just, I adore her writing. And then the last book I read from Alice is Dark Intent. This is the first book in a different trilogy, but it's set within the same world. So this one is in the 3rd country. We actually follow counsellors that we're visiting as ambassadors to the 2nd country from the first duology. I'm just confusing you all now. I'm so articulate. That's why you guys watch me, right? It's a really good series. It follows a woman who is... There are 2 different main religions in this country, and she is of the one that is not really allowed, and they're not actually allowed to pray to them, but they're still... It's a bit like Judaism in that even if they say that they don't pray to them, people will still subjugate them for being Jews, which is a lot of bullshit, but that's kind of what's happening here. And she is a healer, and she's been working for the country just trying to kind of get by and help people when she can, and the story follows her kind of developing along. Amazing, I loved it. I'm really excited to read the next 2. I just need to find the money to buy them, but I will. What did I read next? What did I read next? Next I read a quick little ebook, which was The Woman Who Made Me a Feminist by Killeen. This is maybe 45 pages long, just a short little book, but it's a really interesting set of small essays talking about this author here, Killeen, and all the different women that made him a feminist, made him, as a man brought up in Britain and surrounded by a lot of patriarchy, realise that women are strong and awesome too. So this is actually really great. It goes into a lot of different feminist icons in literature, and it's a free audiobook. No, it's not. It's a free ebook that you can download. It's a quick read, and I'm really glad that I did read it. Second last is The Deep by Rivers Solomon. I loved this so much. Oh my god. Okay, so this is a fantasy book where the slaves that were stolen and transported across the Atlantic, they would often, this is the reality part, be thrown overboard. They were sick or they were inconvenient to whoever was on the boat. The white people on the boat, obviously. That is the disgusting truth of it. But this book takes the fantasy and says that some of them were pregnant, some of these women that were thrown overboard, and when you're in the womb, you're in water. And so it's a fantasy where mermaids come, essentially, from these murdered people are thrown overboard, and the babies in the womb of the pregnant women survive and create this entire race. In my head, it's the Wagenru. Whether that's correct, should probably like find the audiobook at some point, but this is an amazing tale for these people, these mermaids. Only one of them holds their history, one individual out of the entire population, because it is seen as too harsh and too heartbreaking for all of the population to remember at once. So one person is burdened with this, and then periodically every few years they share the information with all of the others and then take it back so as not to burden them. But our main character is struggling with the burden of all of the history, and it develops from there. This is a quite short book. I think it's 166 pages, but it hits a punch. It's so good. It's so fucking good, guys. I 100% recommend. I'm really looking forward to reading more from River Solomon. They are an amazing writer. The prose in this is beautiful, and I wanted it to be longer, but at the same time it was wrapped up so beautifully and so perfect. I just wanted more of her writing. Definitely an amazing book, 5 stars. And then the last book that I read this month was The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I was kind of struggling to read a little bit after a week-long slump, and I saw this and I was like, I kind of want to pick it up. So I did. Thankfully, I got through it and enjoyed it. I have mixed feelings about this. So up until about far through, I was giving this a solid 4 stars, maybe even like 4.5. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed learning more about the running of Gilead and learning more about the different factions within it. But then the end part, I understand why she did it. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to fuck it up for anyone who's not read it. But the end part was just shit. I didn't enjoy it. How to describe it? This is a slight spoiler, but like not really. I didn't want it wrapped up in a bow. I didn't want it all tied up neatly with a neat answer at the end. And I get why she did it, because she had so many people kind of contacting her over the years for The Handmaid's Tale, asking for it to be tied up in a bow. But I didn't need that. I think a lot of the power of the book was that it wasn't tied up neatly, and so that's why I really enjoyed the centre of this book. I just liked learning more about how the world functioned, about how this kind of came to be and the different aspects of it, and how different people were living in this kind of world, and also the little glimpse at Canada. I wasn't so keen on that bit. It was fine, but those weren't my favourite sections. My favourite sections were definitely from an aunt's point of view and from a young girl growing up in a commander's household point of view. Yeah, it would have been a 4.5 if she hadn't done the ending like she did. But she did, so it's like a 3.5. I'm giving it 4 stars. I might, like on Goodreads, I might bop it down to 3 at some point. It just, yeah, I kind of wish I'd stopped at the point where I was like, oh, it feels like the story's done now. I should have stopped. So that is a real pity. I am glad I read it. I do think that if you enjoyed The Handmaid's Tale, you will enjoy the main 80% of this book. It does tell you more about the world, but it also doesn't really ruin The Handmaid's Tale too much, in that it just kind of expands on the world without expanding on details. And then the ending is what is just like, eh. Now for the statistics for all of the books that I read. So I read 12 books this month, which was a total of 3,121 pages. According to a little stats spreadsheet I have, that is 96 pages per day, reading one book on average every 3 days. Usually I hold the books up, but so many of these were ebooks and editing does not want to put them all in. Let's be fucking real, I'm lazy. I'm so bloody lazy. So instead you're just gonna get spoken statistics this time. There were 4 non-fiction books, 7 fantasy books and 1 historical fiction book. I am really rediscovering my love of fantasy, but then also I did read 4 books in the same fantasy series, so. Then there were 3 male authors, 7 female authors and 1 non-binary author, 5 standalone books, 5 books from a series and 2 books from duologies. 5 of the books were adult books and 7 of them were YA. I didn't read any kids aimed books this month. 1 was in a hardback, which was The Testaments, 3 were in paperback and 8 were in ebook, which is a lot more than I was expecting. And 1 author was from Italy, 3 were from the US, 3 were from the UK, 4 of the books were from an Australian author, that's Alice, and 1 was from Canada. And those are the stats for this month. I read a lot more than I expected. I mean, last month, if I go back and check, I only read 5 books. And yes, sure, one of them was massive, but the amount of pages that I read as well significantly jumped this month. So I'm really happy with that, and I hope I can keep it up because, oh my god, I have so many books on my TBR. Thank you for watching. If you've reached the end of this, I'm surprised because this is a very long fucking video because I read too many damn books. Let me know down below if you've read any of these or if you're going to pick any of them up. Please pick up Queendom. It's so good. It's so good. She needs to be known by more people. I will shout her from the rooftops until she's more well known because, oh my god, it's so good. Like I said, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! What the fuck am I saying?